Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butts, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Today's program has been brought to you by GreatBrewers.com, a social media marketing platform dedicated to promoting the world's great brewers and the beers they create. For more information, visit GreatBrewers.com. You're listening to HeritageRadioNetwork.org, a nonprofit member-supported radio station. We're millions strong, with folks tuning in from over 200 countries. We are education. We are entertainment. We are the future of food. May is our membership drive. Become a member and support us while receiving e-newsletters, advanced invites, special discounts, and a membership card. We need your support. Visit our website and click the donate button to become a member today. Thank you for believing in us, and enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome to Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. It's May 28th, 2013. I'm Jimmy Carboni from Jimmy's Number 43 in the Good Beer Seal. Thanks to our sponsor, GreatBrewers.com. And hey, we're going to be talking about Philly Beer Week in Savor, the event coming to New York City. I'm here with Jen Schwertman from Blind Tiger. Hey, Jen, how are you?
Hey, Jimmy. I'm great.
And Josh Bernstein, our favorite beer author, who's got a great app out, and we'll be talking about Philly Beer Week and Savor. All right, guys, welcome to the show, and cheers. We're drinking the Peekskill Eastern Standard IPA.
Cheers.
It's one of my
great
new favorite
beer.
beers. All right.
Yeah, one of my favorite new beers on the East Coast right now.
Yeah, definitely one of the best regular IPAs around that we can get. Super fresh.
It is super fresh. Mm-hmm. Well, Jen, you know, I know you're moving to the West Coast.
Yeah.
But tell us what you're doing, because you've been a bartender here in New York a long time, but you go way back. You have roots in
People keep asking me, what
Colorado
are you going to do?
And California.
And my answer is, I'm going to bartend. So I'm keeping that up, but definitely also keeping up the beer thing. I'm going to go, the catalyst is a guy named Jeff Bagby, who is spinning out of his history overseeing a lot of brewing operations for the pizza ports, and he and his wife are going to open up their own brew pub in Oceanside in an old car dealership that they are converting as we speak, and they're hoping to be open later fall. So my hope is to beat them to it so I can be there and avail myself to them. But and then I'll end up bartending at a beer bar or a brewery or something in there as well. Like,
is that
I'm open.
Near San Diego? Where is it?
Oceanside is North County, so up the coast, just north of Carlsbad. So it's but the place is like 3 blocks from the water, and I plan to live coastally myself, somewhere between that point and San Diego proper, and see that market in action. There's so much beer down there, and great beer,
and sunny weather,
and gorgeous weather. I mean, can't get around that. So
I'm just digging this Peekskill Eastern Standard IPA.
Oh, it's so good.
That's all I can do today. It is my favorite beer. I have to say, this is my new favorite beer. And
that's a bold statement.
Well, in New York, you find it at some choice locations. There's the Reynards at the Hotel Wythe, here at Roberta's, and it's nice to see such a good beer on tap. And
they do a good job here. They always have a good
So,
list.
Josh, what's going on? You going down to Philly Beer Week?
Yeah, I'm heading down to Philly Beer Week this weekend. I figured, it's been a couple years since I've been back to Philly, and we're only, a couple hours away, and so it just makes sense to go down and really get a ground's eye view of what's happening in the local beer scene. It's amazing. If you stay away from a city for about a year now, I mean, things can just totally switch around and change, and so if you don't continue to revisit all these markets, it's really tough to stay
Keep
abreast.
up. Yeah.
I mean, we were just in Connecticut this weekend, and I mean, it's like just the number of new breweries I had to go check out, like Back East Brewing, Two Roads Brewing, and just all the new stuff
That's
from New
happening
England Brewing.
all over the country.
It's everywhere.
It happens in Denver. I asked the guys, like, how many, I was asking them in the fall, how many breweries are there? And they can't answer. They're like, what day is it? What calendar day? Somebody's supposed to open next week. So
it was funny for Great American Beer Festival. I think I had more fun a lot of times going around and just checking out all the new breweries that were there, and it was just a really nice way to go see the city. Got on one of they have the bike system out there. We can rent the bike and just go travel around, and it was a really fantastic way to experience Denver.
But every city is going through it, right now with beer bars and beer, breweries.
And what are some of the highlights of Philly? I mean, I know they have the opening party that they probably already had, and there's that great collaboration beer they did with De La Seine. And we're going to talk to Chris Wilson from Wildbacker a little bit.
I think for me, what I like about Philly is just it's such a fantastic bar city. It really has some of the best craft beer bars in the country. They've been doing it for a really long time.
Thanks to Tom.
Yeah. With Monks down there is really terrific, and you're seeing in Northern Liberty's Fishtown just all these great bars blossoming. Johnny Brenda's Craftwork, and so my favorite thing really to do is go around Philly and just drink and eat as much as I can.
It sounds like fun. When I went 2 years ago, I think we hit like Benelux. We hit, there's so many good places that we went to. We went to Monk's Cafe, Devil's Den. Any others that you're looking forward to going to?
Yeah, what are your favorites, Josh?
Oh my gosh, well, I think I mentioned Johnny Brenda's has always been a good favorite to go to. Craftwork, they just do good beer and great food mixed together. A lot of really good hearty, meaty stuff. Oh gosh, McGlinchey's in Center City area is a favorite dive bar. The type of place we get hot dogs for $1 and like beers are really weird prices, like $3.85 a pint, and lots of crotchety old men at the bar. But it's just great craft beer, and that's the thing about it. You would think dive bar, but really it's just terrific drinking.
Yeah, they've taken it to another level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an accessible city. I think you can jump on a bus from New York, be there in 2 hours, spend all day, hit 5 or 6 bars, and come back that night.
Yeah, cheap buses running all the time. So yeah, there's no excuse.
Well, Philly, all right. And then Savor is coming to New York in June. And Josh, I know you're with your app. Tell us about your craft beer app.
Oh yeah, no problem. It's called Craft Beer New York, and kind of the idea behind it is that New York City, we'll say 10 years ago, you knew where the good beer bars were in New York City. I mean, there were a few out there, and they were repeated kind of verbatim over and over and over again. And nowadays you're watching, but New York City doesn't really stay down for very long. New York City, when it gets behind in any sector, it really thinks to itself, how can I do better? How can I make this better? How can I be the best in the country at it? So you're watching right now is kind of this hyper-speed evolution of New York City's craft beer scene.
It's like what we were saying about every city, but it's New York, so it's multiplicative.
Yeah, and you're going to see people coming in with big, giant projects, costly projects that, the ambition is there, and that I think the city brings out the best ambition possible. And so what the app is, it goes back to the thing, where do you go for a great beer nowadays? And I mean, you don't have to just make a pilgrimage. You can have great beer crawls in Queens. You can have a great beer crawl down in, let's see, from like Red Hook to Park Slope. Then you could go up Carroll Gardens. I mean, Bronx, fantastic bars everywhere. So the whole idea behind this is to give people the tools in their hand to really figure out where they're going to go without having to turn to Yelp and sift through a million different reviews. So it's a very curated app in the sense where the beer bars and breweries and bottle shops are on there. I've been to, written about, I do all the reviews myself with a little bit. My friend Chris O'Leary from Brew York does a few of them as well. And the idea is you don't really have to ever drink a bad beer in town. And so the app is updated with new bars, new breweries, new bottle shops as they roll into the city. So it's not a static app in the sense where it's a dead document, but it's going to be continually living and evolving. And as new deals come in, I roll them into the app. And so I try to make it as easy to get a great craft beer in the city as possible.
So for Savor, you're going to have some specials and discounts and, suggested events.
Oh yeah, totally. We're going to roll in some
people who are visiting New York.
Yeah, beer deals for Savor. We're going to have a ton of like dollar off discounts. I think with Good Beer Seal working together to have a lot of great things coming in, and also it's going to be for people that are coming into New York City. I mean, we're going to have all the best events that are happening in town. It's just, I think oftentimes it's really tough to sit there and sift through all what's happening in this town, and there's a lot of noise out there. So with the craft beer app, I try to just make it as easy as possible to find the best of what's happening in the city. And that's what I'm able to do because you're having all these people coming to town, and it's really amazing. People are always like, "What bar should I go to in the city? What bar should I do in this?" And I've answered this question a million times over the last 10 years. And so with this way, I can finally be like, "Here's my entire brain put in smartphone form."
Josh,
and updated.
This is the real question.
It's great.
How do I download an app?
How do you download an app? Oh my gosh, Jimmy. How do you download the app?
Laughing. Joe's
Jimmy.
laughing. Bree's laughing.
Yeah,
there's little elves that run around out there, and then you just punch it into your phone. You have a BlackBerry, don't you, Jimmy?
Yeah, but I don't do that stuff.
What do you mean you don't do that stuff? You just rely on us?
I just go to my Good Beer Seal bars and drink all the beer
He'll
I
help
want.
you after the show. Try to download it.
You go to the Android store and you go to the iPhone.
So I go to a store and then I can buy your app.
But it's free, so you're not buying it.
It's not free. It's $1.99.
Oh, oops.
I
Sorry.
know. But you know what's crazy about it? It is. It's $1.99. It's been
$2.
It is $2. But the interesting is just everything on the internet nowadays is free. So there's a lot of pushback from people. They're like, $2? I don't want to pay $2 for that. And I have to sit there and, be like, but I wrote everything and this. You're getting this constantly updated document for $2. And they're like, but it's $2 as they order a $9 beer.
So if I'm coming to New York for Savor and I want to know where to go, so I have to buy your app first.
Yes.
Right. And then you're going to list all the cool things going on.
Indeed. That would be perfect, Jimmy.
There's some really cool things happening for Savor. I'll tell you that.
It's
leading
savor,
up to it,
by the way.
It's not
like savory.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to correct you very much, Jimmy.
I really have wanted to ever since you started talking, so I had to.
That's
sorry.
why I like it, Jim. That's why. But okay, so I know on Tuesday, June 11th, we're hosting with Beer Nation Show the launch of the Beer Hunter movie. By John Richards.
Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah, it's it's kind of like before Michael Jackson, the great beer writer, died. This guy John was filming him because they were going to make a documentary about him, and then he died. And it took him a number of years to raise the money. And between the footage he had shot with Michael and going back to some old footage from BBC, he's put together the movie, and it's finally out.
Great.
And we're doing the New York City premiere. It's going to be June 11th at a great theater downtown, Anthology Film Archives. Steve Hindy from Brooklyn Brewery will be speaking. Tom Acatelli, who's written the great new book, Audacity of Hops, will be there. He had a great chapter about Michael Jackson, the early 70s and 80s in American craft beer.
Yeah, it's about time there was a movie, so more people can know about him.
Yeah, and our good friend John Hall is now the editor of All About Beer. He'll be there, too. So it's a nice little lineup, and there'll be some beers from Brooklyn Brewery and Van Bergen de Wolf. I asked them, I said, what are Michael Jackson's favorite beers? Were his favorite beers? And they said it's impolitic, and I understand what they're saying because, the different people are repping different beers.
And he can't vouch for himself right now.
Yeah, but definitely Wendy at Van Bergen de Wolf said that he did like his Saison DuPont, which we all knew.
It's an interesting question for beer writers and bartenders, like, what's your favorite beer?
Oh, people ask it all the time.
All the time. And, it's kind of like saying, what's your favorite child on there? I mean, it's hard to say it because, you have very many favorite beers for the moment, for the occasion.
And I start talking more in terms of some favorite breweries that never let me down, who are really consistently great. And I will start talking about that. But even within those, breweries, to pick favorites is just what mood am I in? That's
so
part of it.
what breweries have never let you down?
I don't know. Oh, well, there are a lot of them, honestly.
I feel like it's something to do with the governor of Colorado.
No, Wing Coop has let me down.
Has it?
Sorry, Wing Coop. But yeah, over the years, they never had the greatest beer. They've gotten much better over the, more
last
recently.
Couple years, yeah.
But they were more of a destination. It was an amazing place where you had you sent all your friends in from out of town to see the place and be part of that community. So it was a great community bar. And it brewed beer, but the beer was never the best beer in Colorado.
You went there to play shuffleboard with your friends.
Yeah, it was beautiful. So there are different reasons why you love beer bars and breweries, and honestly, the beer wasn't the reason back then, although in the last handful of years, it's gotten way more consistently better, and I'm happy to see that, because I've always loved the place. But other breweries are the ones who've never let me down.
But on that night, I hope that people do get to turn out and see the Michael Jackson movie, the Beer Hunter movie. And I looked through one of his old books, and And I know there was beers like, he always mentioned things like Duvel and Saison de Pont. So when he was first writing,
Of course.
it was kind of like, I think he was the only guy that was keeping track of the great beers that are out there. And I know that many of those beers were at risk of discontinued, you know. So it's pretty. I'm just saying, guys, come out, check it out. It's a Beer Hunter movie. It's June 11th at Anthology Film Archives. Go to goodbeerseal.com. The ticket's $10. It includes beer and some Coach Farm cheese and some Martin's pretzels. It's kind of a great deal, but it's and I think John Richards is coming all the way from Idaho.
Oh, great!
So it's going to be a good
Idaho.
night. And then, Josh, what beer are we drinking before we go to our break?
And Jimmy's cup is empty, and he's been itching for me to do this for a few seconds.
Fidgety now.
I'm getting my energy back.
Smutty Nose has been doing this really amazing series called Short Batch, where they do lots of really terrific new, innovative beers. People think of Smutty Nose, they think of like the IPA, think the old Brown Dog beer's been around for a while, but they're really an innovative, interesting brewery, and this is a thing to really remind people about that. And so this one is Luna Moth, which is their Hoppy Saison done with Eldorado hops, which is going to be like a tropical Jolly Rancher-ish fruitiness in there. But
You said it's low alcohol, right? How low?
I think Hoppy Saison.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said. Oh, I
Let's
thought
go,
before.
Josh. Come on.
Yeah.
I think I was lying to you,
Maggie,
so you
were
just
lying
drink
to
it.
me.
Joe, there's
Okay.
beer. Everyone's like, we want to try the beer too. So, hey, we're all just going to take a short break. We'll taste this new beer, and we'll be back in a few minutes on Beer Sessions Radio. All right.
Have we lost all control? I don't know what I should do. Wake me up when you know. And I
You're listening to Leaving by Dead Stars on the Heritage Radio Network.org. Keep it locked for Beer Sessions Radio, everyone.
Hey, welcome back to Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. I'm Jimmy Carboni, and our podcast is brought to you by GreatBrewers.com, a comprehensive website aimed at bringing the beer community together. At GreatBrewers.com, it's all about the brewers. All right, here we are. I got Josh Bernstein, Jen Schwertman. We're here in New York City, and our calling guest, it's Chris Wilson, the head brewer at Weyerbacher Brewing Company, and he's calling in to discuss the collaboration beer that they made for Philly Beer Week. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Chris, it sounds like Philly Beer Week's really cool. We just had the Heresy at Jimmy's number 43. It was a rockin' beer. So thanks so much, man.
Thanks. We try.
So I read a little backstory on this collaboration beer. So what happened? You guys actually let a consumer pick the brewery you would collaborate with? Is that what happened? Something like
that's
that.
not quite the way it works. The brewery is selected through Philly Beer Week, rather. And the consumer picks me. They vote on a brewer that they would like to go to Belgium with and brew a beer. So I was lucky enough to have Matt Hohorst pick me, and we got to go and brew in February.
Wow.
Oh, so you went to Brussels?
Oh yes.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
And so Matt, the consumer Matt, got to go with you.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he went for the whole trip. It was quite a bit of fun. Yep.
And that's a really nice facility, Brasserie de la Seine. Yvonne has done a great thing building that place.
Indeed, yeah. He's a small brewer in a big warehouse, but
he's got lots of
everything
room
lined up for the future. So it's good.
Wow,
so what did you brew?
We brewed a Belgian-style double, which is kind of a medium-strength malty beer. Of course, it's going to have that fruitiness from the Belgian character. But to put a little bit of a twist on it, we tried to tie in some Pennsylvania roots. So we had a little inspiration from a shoefly pie, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's really a lot of molasses, a lot of sugar, some brown sugar, and some, and like a nice crust. So to mimic that, we put in some molasses. It's like a dark, super sugary, some dark fruit flavors in it.
Fermentable?
And then put in a good bit of oats to kind of mimic that crusty flavor. So it won't taste like a shoefly pie, but it's inspired by shoefly pie. So it's got a little bit of interesting sweetness to it. But Avon's beers are all quite balanced. So this is it has a nice bit of bitterness to it as well.
So, but does that molasses sugar, does that ferment out?
Yep, it's just like regular sugar. It's actually a byproduct of making sugar.
Right.
The molasses is just that. It has a lot of impurities, which give it the distinct color and flavor.
Sure.
All right. Hey, Chris, tell us more about Philly Beer Week, and what are you guys doing at Weyerbacher, and what are some of the choice events that are still coming up this week?
Well, we have a ton of events. I think there's over 1,000 events this year, which is a record, I believe. But we in particular have, I don't know, maybe it feels like 30 or 40. But on Friday, we always kick it off at Jose Pistola's for a little firkin lunch. That starts around noon. So we'll have a firkin of something interesting. And then, of course, we'll be at Opening Tap on Friday, which I think tickets are available for that right now. And then we'll always finish off at Philly Barn Restaurant on Friday. So that's just the first day.
All right. Hey, Chris, how did you tell us your whole process? You started as a brewer. Did you start working in bars? How did you get involved in this industry?
Oh, that's a long story, but I'll give you the short.
We have time. You can tell us the long story. Come on.
Go for it.
Well, I have a degree in physics, and I graduated from Appalachian State in Boone, North Carolina. That was in '96, and then I moved through some science jobs at the Naval Research Lab in D.C., and then moved out to California with my then she was fiancée at that point, and I got a job doing liquor crystal displays and selling optics and things like that, like lenses and mirrors for semiconductor. It's all very boring. But I did that for a few years. But when the tech bubble popped, I lost my job and I was unemployed for a year. And I was living in Southern California making unemployment, which is really low in California.
And the best way to soothe those things is with a little beer, right?
Exactly. Well, I was making a real effort to find a job. I just couldn't. So I told my wife one day, I'm like, I'm just going to go do something I like. At least I won't be sitting on my butt. And she's like, okay. And I went and I was making $7 an hour doing heavy grunt work at a brewery in Southern California.
Which one?
Called Bayhawk. I'm sorry?
I've never heard of them. Bayhawk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're mostly local. They do sell in a few other states, but it's they do a lot of.
That was this guy, David Hasselhoff. He was involved with that. Nobody's laughing. No, Baywatch.
It's not very funny.
Who watched Baywatch? Okay.
Nice try, Jimmy. Okay, keep going. So, so you were cleaning kegs and doing all the stuff that a guy just.
Chris, just so you know, I'm going to try all my bad jokes on you today. So after you're in the Navy, then you were out of work and you decided to do beer, not bombs, right?
You haven't been listening,
really
have you? He's a science background, which I'm thrilled to hear about because I feel like the best brewers often come from some sort of science background because this is scientific art or artistic science or something. So it's a great story. So anyway, so you ended up doing your grunt work, but then how'd you move up from there?
Well, actually, they started having me brew relatively quickly there. So that was probably within actually a few weeks I was brewing some beer there, and then they were kind of desperate for labor. So within a few months I was brewing on my own, doing the night shift. So it was a good way of getting a little experience, real world experience doing some work.
Yeah,
and I loved it. It wasn't even just the fact that I was getting paid. I liked the physical aspect of it. Where my job in the past had been, sitting at a desk and getting wider.
A lot of thinking, and not a lot of activity. Yeah.
Earlier in the show we're talking about. Beer. It's almost like you could. It's like beer tourism and this beer industry. It's kind of like it's getting people back to their roots. It's like I've been going up the Hudson Valley a lot the last month, and it's like in every town there's a new brewery. I was at Newburgh Brewing, and there's Keegan's in Kingston. I mean, this is in the New York area, but it's like it represents so much. So it's like it's something that's worthwhile, right? And you're feeling challenged, but it's also like people really like it. So I can see how you're probably feeling really satisfied, aren't you, being a brewer?
Well, it's also the story of every brewer, I think. I'm sorry to interrupt, but where you listen to everyone's story of how they got there, and they're all very different, and yet the common thread is usually that at some point they realize, my God, I'm kind of in love with this process, and I want to keep doing this, and this is what's motivating me. And so whatever it takes to get to that moment, that's how we've found so many brewers out there who are providing us with great beer.
Yeah, brewing seems to be one of these classic second career professions where, you're doing your job you don't care about, but brewing's what you do on the weekends, and the weekends become weekdays, and the weekdays, it takes over. So, and then you're like, how can I make this my job? And then you take those next steps, and that's why you're seeing such a big flowering right now in the country of, I think, 2,500 plus breweries, another 1,300, 1,400 in planning. I mean, you're seeing a lot of people living out their dreams right now.
Yeah, and a lot of them haven't been employed really for the last couple of years, and that might be part of why there's this boom, because a lot of people were hitting a crossroads where they had to figure out, just like you did years ago. A lot of people are in the same position where their job ends, and then they've got to figure out what's next.
Yeah, I think it's a real world question where you ask yourself, you think you want to do this thing you love, but can you change from a professional job where you may be making $70,000, $80,000 a year to one where you're making 30, or if you're lucky,
If you're lucky, yeah.
And I think a lot of people realize that what they love is money. Yeah. And some people go back and they do their professional job, but the guys that really are into brewing, who enjoy that combination of science and art, they're the guys that stick with it.
And they're the ones who find a way.
Yeah. And the thing that's interesting to me is just that, oftentimes when you're working really hard hours, long, hot, sweaty, physical, arduous hours, but oftentimes in the beer industry, people think that it's beer, so you're obviously not working very hard because everything is just, IPAs at sunset and not like the hard physical labor that goes into that. Have you found any misconceptions you've had to overcome with people when you switch careers?
Yeah, some family, that don't understand why I would have, given it up. Most of my friends are, just been very supportive. Sometimes it's hard to convince your parents when they helped you pay for your college career to switch it up and go do a blue collar job.
Hey, I'm a bartender, so I've been through that one.
And Chris, if you just had a trust fund, then you would have said I can do whatever I want anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah,
we're going in a weird direction, but
no. When did you move back to the East Coast? I want to know when you came back to the East Coast.
That was in 2004. My wife's actually from New Jersey, and that's what brought us back here. So, I just ended up looking through the phone book essentially, and made an alphabetical list of all the breweries in the area, and said, "Hey, let's go." And I started calling. I got Bethlehem Brewworks, and I spoke with Jeff Fegley there, who's the owner, and he's like, "Well, we're not hiring, but Weyerbacher is. Give them a call." So. The rest is history from there.
I was going to say it's pretty far down the alphabet right there.
Yeah, I got pretty lucky. Both times I made it to B.
Very good.
Baywatch coming. David Hasselhoff.
Hey, do you have any good beers? Or for Weyerbacher, do you have any beers coming up this spring, summer? Interest or excited you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, for Philly Beer Week, we have Aquila, which is or Aquila, I should say. I call it Aquila, but it's the constellation. It's named after a constellation, and that's going to be a saison or a farmhouse with a real strong American hop aroma. Mm-hmm. We use some toasted wheat and some rye in it, so it's got a real nice, interesting malt character to it as well. But pretty bitter, and it's definitely American in its hop aroma. So I'm pretty excited about that one. And then we have Viridis Lupulus, which is another IPA, which it's unfiltered. It's been in the tank for a very long time. So we're ready for that to come out. That'll come out next week or so. That's made with Apollo, Calypso, Galaxy, and Centennial hops, and it's just a true hop experience.
I'm definitely a fan of your hoppy beers. Those are always my favorites of what you've done.
Yeah, Double Simcoe.
Yeah,
well, thanks.
Great.
Chris, how long have you been the brewer at Weilbacher?
Since I started, and when I started in 2004, I was one of 2 brewers, and if I can't remember exactly, but let's say head brewer by 2006. So going on
all the beers we like
9
from
years
Weilbacher.
total at Weilbacher, and
Nice.
7 or so as head brewer.
Cool, man. Hey, Josh just popped a beer. What are we drinking, Josh?
Jimmy made me bring all the beers tonight, actually. Right now we're drinking the...
Thanks, Josh.
No problem, everybody. The Deschutes Great Lakes collaboration. There's been a series going on. A lot of the brewers, a class of 88, so both of them have been around for 25 years. So this collaboration beer is the Imperial Smoke Porter. And Great Lakes has really done this really amazing Edmund Fitzgerald Porter for a number of years. And Deschutes is known for his Black Butte.
Black Butte.
Black Butte, I know.
One of my favorites.
Savour.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for calling in. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with Adam Dulia and talk about Savour. All right.
Savor.
No more faces sitting here to fry. No replacement. Nothing left to hide.
You're listening to Kill Me in the Summertime by Dead Stars on the heritageradionetwork.org. Keep it locked for more Beer Sessions Radio, everyone.
So, you like good beer? Whether you're a craft beer pro or just had your first sip of an IPA, GreatBrewers.com is your #1 beer resource on the internet. GreatBrewers.com bridges the gap between the world's great brewers and the consumers who enjoy their products. With so much information and misinformation out there, GreatBrewers.com focuses on education and leaves no stone unturned. Take the Great Beer Test on their website and browse through an extensive product catalog. Download their mobile Beer Cloud app, which includes a GPS beer finder, a beer sommelier, and descriptions for over 5,000 different brews. What are you waiting for? Back up that passion for craft beer with some solid information and education. Visit GreatBrewers.com today.
Hey, welcome back to Beer Sessions Radio. We're at Roberta's and Bushwick in Brooklyn. And Jen, what is that event? It's called Savor?
Yes, Jimmy. It's called Savor.
We can talk about it all day because it's SAVOR.
We can't talk that long about one word because it's just one
Savoir.
word.
Why don't we just try that one?
Okay.
Savoir Faire, Savour Magazine.
But, we're excited.
The Savor Beer
this
Fest.
event's coming to New York, and everybody's really excited
Yeah,
about
for
it.
the first time.
And Josh's Craft Beer New York app, right?
Yeah, going to make magic happen
And
for
you're
everybody.
talking about that and good Brazil bars. And we've got some Long Island breweries that come into the city to do some special events.
This is a big event. This is like the third event that the Brewers Association puts on. They do the Great American Beer Festival, which is a huge beer festival for the public. They do the Craft Brewers Conference, which is really for the brewers. And then they do Savor. And I don't know how many years they've been doing it, but it's always been in Washington, D.C. And so because the Craft Brewers Conference was actually in Washington, D.C. this year, they decided to just spin it out and try it in New York as just a one-off time. And so it's a really, I think it's going to be a one-time deal.
Yes, there's some really cool things happening too. Also, our friends Sam Merritt and this crazy guy from San Francisco, Rich, who's a master cicerone. They're going to do a pre-Savor kind of boot camp, how to taste beer.
Sure, there are lots. There are going to be so many events going on in New York as a result, because the deal with Savor is that in order to pour the beer, the brewer's present. So it's not every single brewer. I think it's 76 breweries participate. They put themselves in a lottery if they want to participate, and so it's sort of a different group every year. But it's a small group, and yet the brewer is there pouring his beer for the public, and then it's about food. And what makes this one different is the fact that there is a chef who is, thoughtfully put together pairings so that you are constantly like
Jen, guess
trying
what?
beer with.
Guess we have on. He just called in.
Surprise!
We have Adam Dulia, who is the chef this year for the Savor. Adam, are you on the line?
I am. Good to meet you.
Adam, tell us about some of the pairings you've coordinated. You're the chef owner of the Monk's Kettle and the Abbott Cellar in San Francisco, and you're a consultant to the Brewers Association. So tell us about some of your favorite beer and food pairings that you've set up.
Absolutely. So what we try and do with Savor is we take the beers that the 76 breweries send in, and then we write a menu around what flavor profiles the brewers want to have highlighted. So the menu changes every year that we do this, as do the beers, and also as the trends continue, what want to be highlighted. A couple things we're really excited about this year are with some of the beers that are there, we're going to be using some unique ingredients to kind of push the envelope a little bit with pairings for some more experienced palates that come into the event. We're also going to have some classic pairings in there, and then also some ones that are kind of calming to the palate or will relax the palate a little bit before you move on to something that's going to be a little more intense. But we've sourced some ingredients like using a jaggery sugar to make a caramel. This is a sugar that's made from date and cane sugar that is not been separated between the grain and the molasses. And so what this does is it kind of mimics what happens with a lot of the caramelization in the brewing process. And there's a couple really unique beers. Ballast Point's bringing an Imperial Porter called Victory at Sea that they're actually putting some coconut into the beer for this. And then with that, it's just going to have this kind of intense, almost like you want to be having a drink on the beach somewhere Caribbean type effect on your palate. And then on the complete opposite end of it, Three Floyds is bringing a beer, the Tibetan Inquisitor, and it's a Belgian strong that's been aged in French oak. And when you combine something that's like a deep roasty sugar with that kind of French oak in there, it kind of mellows that out a little bit and brings notes and forward in the beer that you might not otherwise have seen.
I love the idea that you want to drink a Victory at Sea, this huge bowl in the Caribbean on a beach. I love that. Get them thinking.
Yeah, that's
break them out of the box.
The whole idea is to spark a conversation and to see how many people in the room that night can have their aha moment with beer and food.
So, Adam, it's been in D.C. the last few years. So, do you feel any, pressure coming to New York City to really up the ante and really go all out this year?
Definitely. There's absolutely the desire to push the envelope for being in New York. D.C. has been an absolutely fabulous host, and we'll be going back there next year and then kind of see where the reception is for it in New York this year and how the community takes to it. And the craft beer community in New York right now is really getting excited about this for that. So, yeah, anytime you go into a new city, you definitely want to have, some things that are going to push it to the next level, create new challenges, and just kind of take it there. And then take it into a city like New York, you're gonna be told brutally, honestly, what worked and what didn't. And so this is kind of the ultimate test.
So
Adam,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Adam. Quick thing. So you're overseeing all the food at the event?
Yeah. So
I'm afraid to pronounce it.
I was actually wondering how many years you've been in this position. Also,
this is my third year doing this for Savor. And the last 2 years with DC. So my role is to basically represent not only what's happening in food, but also listen to what is going on with craft beer and listen to all the breweries and what they want highlighted out of their beer. And then we're working with a catering company in New York City called Sonia and Castle. It's a very small catering company that we're working with sourcing all of these products, creating a menu unique only to this event. It's not something where you go in and pick and choose these things. So there needs to be a voice representing where craft beer and culinary trends are at and what we want to have highlighted and pulled out from those beers and how do we get to those and how do we then take it to where you can walk around a room where this year we've got 152 beers, 153 with the collaboration beer, and 46 menu items. And those 46 menu items, everything you taste with them will have a different reaction on your palate.
Adam, let me just flesh this out because I know that for some of the beer events in New York City, this event is priced on the high end. It's priced accordingly to like a very high-end tasting event that we go to for many, many occasions. So you think that I just want to flesh that out because I know that many beer events here are like $75 or so, but this event is around $200 a person or more. How can you justify that price? Because we want our listeners to know really what you're doing, because you're doing a great job.
Yeah, I think the first and foremost thing is that this is not a beer festival. This is a tasting. This is not something that would be compared to what you'd see for like a normal kind of like beer festival in the park or in the winter and inside tasting. This is also a lot of the breweries that are coming to this are pulling out beers that are not in their regular lineup. You're going to see beers coming from breweries right now. Like take for last year example, we had 32 states represented at Savor in 2012 down in Washington D.C. and you're going to be able to try beers, try them with food, try them paired, and you're also going to have this incredible experience of talking to the people who brewed the beer. You're going to be drinking the beer out of a glass. There's rinsing stations so that you have a fresh glass, and you're going to be reading notes along each dish that kind of walk you through what you should taste, or have a conversation about, you know, what you're tasting with someone there who can actually have a conversation back with you about it.
I have another point to make, too, which is not only are these brewers pulling unusual or making unusual beers for this event specifically, New York beer drinkers are also going to have exposure to a lot of breweries that are not sold in our market. So beers that you would normally have to go, like we don't get Three Floyds, so we would normally have to travel to get to the Midwest to get their beer. They're coming to us, so that's an even more of an incentive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Adam, for you're mentioning, you're having 46 dishes with, 150
That's a lot of
150 plus
items.
beers. And so, of course, not every beer can have a dish specifically paired to it. So how do you go about deciding, what's the overriding flavor is going to be, and, how you're going to, find enough dishes, or what is the optimum number of dishes you want to make?
So there are 46 dishes. Of those, 16 of them are completely designed to go with one beer. There are 16 supporting breweries in Savor. And then the rest of the 30 are divided up basically on flavor profiles. The first thing that we get into this event is we get all the beers. All of the craft brewers send in what they want to have pour, and we take that and we put it kind of up on this huge board. Then the craft brewers that are able to send beer out, we do a tasting with about 5 to 6 chefs, 4 to 5 cicerones, overall about 15 palates that I would say are qualified to kind of put their comments out there. And we start by just writing words, not it tastes hoppy, not it tastes bitter, because people who are just starting to taste beer don't necessarily know that. But we go with reactions, we go with thoughts, feelings, moments, and then we kind of see where those all fall. And then we get to a dish, like, for example, one of the dishes that's at Savor this year is a flute crudo with cucumber, rhubarb, and vermouth. That's going to be paired with 4 different beers on the floor, but the 4 beers we're pairing it with are all different styles. We have a wheat, a saison, a pilsner, and a kolsch. And with each dish, you're going to have a different reaction on the palate, whether you're pulling a little bit of the wheat out, whether you're pulling what a peppery saison yeast strain does, the herbal notes of noble hops in a pilsner, or the gentle carbonation in a kolsch.
I think it's brilliant, because what better way to learn how food and beer pair together than
Jen,
to have that.
Let me try one more time. Is it Savor?
Yes.
I said it right?
You're supposed
You
to savor
did.
the...
That's amazing.
Hey, Jimmy, here's a good trick. You can savor the flavor.
Nice.
Just say that over and over again. I'm going to savor the flavor. I'm going to savor the flavor.
But John, who's John? Come on, Adam, we're messing with you. But
Adam.
tell me, you had 16 breweries with special pairings. So give us 1 or 2 of these special pairings that you can tease us with, because I know I'm going, but our listeners still want to buy tickets, because you can only get tickets in advance. You cannot show up at the door, and that's what
Correct.
Julia
Tickets
told me today.
do need to be purchased in advance. They're not available at the door. So for some of the one-off ones, Dogfish Head has a new beer out, 61, that is one of the great beer, craft beer and food pairings that's out there, and we're going to do that with a pigeon crudo with a little bit of juniper ice cream. And it's going to go back and forth with the addition of that Syrah must to the beer, but then it's also going to reach back and pull the hops out that everybody remembers from the 60-minute base.
Is a pigeon a specific pairing for New York City?
Getting down to our indigenous roots.
our indigenous species.
We try and keep the menu local.
Right. So it's savor the flavor. And so how do people get, if people are hunting pigeons, how can they provide them? No.
Oh, please, Jimmy.
Dude. Adam, you're awesome, man. This is really going to be an awesome event. I'll be there Saturday night. I think I'm actually leading the panel for the, there's a talk about the collaboration beer that's between, Saranac Brewing,
Brooklyn Brewery,
and the other one.
Omegang.
I'm leading the panel on that, and I'm going to get my information soon. But hey,
and Monk's Kettle is a great place. I haven't been to your newer place, but Brian Hunt of Moonlight Brewing took me there, and it's beautiful. So I'm a fan.
Yeah. So one more time, Josh, how do we know how to pronounce this event?
You're going to savor the flavor.
Savor the flavor. I needed that. Thank you. And I know you guys can keep using that. So, hey, guys, we've got a few weeks to go. It's June 14th and 15th in New York City. It's savor the flavor, and you're going to have a good time. All right. Adam, thanks for coming on. We're going to give a few shout-outs. We've got coming up, leading off for us, we're calling it Savor Week in New York City. We've got the New York City premiere of the Beer Hunter movie on June 11th. We've got a pre-Savor boot camp with Sam Merritt and some other master cicerones. That's going to be pretty awesome. Go to goodbeerseal.com. And also, Josh, how can they get your app again?
Either the iTunes, the App Store, Craft Beer New York, or on Android as well, just Craft Beer New York, and that will be it.
And then Savor the Flavor, savorcraftbeer.com. That's where to get your tickets.
And we're going to be running special deals and discounts on there, so if you get the app, you get deals on beers all across the city.
Awesome. And check out everything on Good Beer Seal for more information. I'd like to thank our sponsors at greatbrewers.com have helped to bring this podcast to you tonight, and Beer Sessions is supported by the Good Beer Seal. If you like this podcast, give us a good review on iTunes, too. Hey, thanks to Josh, Jen, Chris, Adam for joining me here on the Heritage Radio Network. I'm Jimmy Carboni. Thanks to our producers, Jack Inslee, Brie O'Connor, and our engineer, Joe Galarraga. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Beer Sessions Radio. All right.
Thanks for listening to this program on heritageradionetwork.org. You can find all of our archived programs on our website or as podcasts in the iTunes Store by searching Heritage Radio Network. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at @heritage_radio. You can email us questions at any time at info@heritageradionetwork.org. Heritage Radio Network is a non-profit organization. To donate and become a member, visit our website today. Thanks for listening.